I'm wondering if it's safe to talk to you guys on 4/21, because I just have this feeling that on April 20th, 4/20, it might have been an interesting, sort of relaxing day for you guys. Am I right or wrong?
The people down at Kindred Cafe were very, very nice yesterday. It was a very relaxed day, for sure.
I would imagine.
I watched a lot of people on YouTube get high. I didn't get high.
What, I think you told me the story last time about your first record deal, about how somebody sent you off into the shed with a bunch of Led Zeppelin records and a bag of dope and said, you know, write some songs.
Yeah, when we first met with the label, they always let you in the closet of all the artists that they have, or so you can pretty much just get any CDs you want that they have in the in there. And they sent us home with a box set of Led Zeppelin, and we got the goods on our own, and went in Mom's garage, and that's where the band pretty much started and formed over the next 2 weeks.
You have I would imagine that traveling with Dad, the Pentecostal minister, that you've got a bunch of rather unique road stories about traveling with Dad, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, for us it was good times. It was, you know, family all together on the road. So I mean, they're, you know, just normal road trip stories pretty much. There wasn't anything really crazy going on.
But Dad liked to rock. I mean, he would put on, you know, the Stones and Neil Young in the car when Mom wasn't there, right?
Yeah, when she'd fall asleep, he would. That was actually my best memories, was when everyone was asleep, and I would stay up with my dad and we'd listen to music, or I would stay up to keep him awake for the long drives. But yeah, we had some good times.
What else would you listen to? Neil Young? There was the Stones, there was Zeppelin. What else?
Pretty much whatever was on the AM radio at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Do you remember the first time, your first gig? You must have, you know, coming from you know, I guess rural Tennessee, you would have had to play at some really interesting bars, local bars. Do you remember the first gig?
Yeah, absolutely. I remember the first Kings of Leon gig. We actually opened up for Billy Joe Shaver. We were the first of three. It was us and then a band called the Skeeters, which is country for mosquitoes, I think. I'm pretty sure they've all drank themselves to death by now. But yeah, it was our first gig, and we were nervous because it was all cowboy hats and people that were there for old Western music, and so we were all just like, man, what are we gonna do?
Well, that's kind of like that scene out of the Blues Brothers where they go to that bar and they have to play behind chicken wire.
Yeah. It had like this curtain, and it would open and you would play, and then you hit your last chord and it would go and close. And I remember after we hit our last chord, it was like a Saved by the Bell moment. We all like gave a high five, and then we got off stage and went to watch the other band, and we realized that the curtain was see-through. So the whole place saw us high-fiving and like hugging and crying.
So we're a bunch of albums into what looks like a very sustainable career. And it's rather interesting with you guys because you start with an EP, you release a bunch of albums, and you're allowed to develop as a band, which is unusual because, let's face it, a lot of bands these days, you get one album, 1 or 2 singles, and out. Mm-hmm. It's I guess it must be some pretty cool vindication. You know, leave us alone, let us develop, let us build a fan base, and we'll turn this into a monster.
Well, it's, you know, especially now when, you know, the things that are happening in our career and things that, you know, that, like you say, a lot of bands don't get to do. For us, it's so much sweeter, you know, because we worked our way to where we are now. You know, you have a lot of bands that come out and they have this one flute pop hit and they're playing, you know, these big venues on their first album, and then their second album tanks and they're gone. And for us, you know, it's album 4 before we get to play these places. So we've worked our way up and we've waited for this moment and we've prepared for it. And so, I mean, I don't know if the record label did it on purpose. I think just the way that we made records and the way that they would be surprisingly successful in certain places, and then other places they were just kind of under the radar. So they kind of had to let us develop, because they didn't want to, they didn't want to drop us from the label when they knew they were guaranteed 500,000 sold in the UK and Australia and all this,
And that's the interesting thing too, is because your first seed of success it wasn't in America, it wasn't in North America, it was in the UK and Europe, which is a bit unexpected for a band from Tennessee.
Yeah, especially considering when we first came out, the sound that we were producing was, we thought that the South was going to be the only place that would actually get it. And the South was one of the last places to get it. There would be these kids in Ireland that would be singing our songs, and we were just like, I didn't know how they could understand what I was saying. But yeah, it was just a crazy thing. And I mean, I definitely think there was some luck involved. But after that all passed, we really worked, and every time we write a song, every time we make an album, we all sit down and we kind of talk about what we want to do next and what we want to do that we haven't done before.
I think our backstory kind of kept their attention long enough for them to realize, besides the fact that there are 3 brothers and a cousin and were raised on the road by a preacher father, I think the story definitely sucked them in. But then, it kept their attention long enough to realize that, this band might have some potential to, actually make great music and be something more than just a novelty. When we first got to England, I mean, I honestly think they were surprised that we had socks and shoes on when we stepped off the plane. Like, I think they were expecting just these wild, crazy, hillbilly redneck, guys that had never seen the world, and which we were. We just had socks and shoes on.